So I'm going to start with you, Emily. You have a unique role. Why don't you tell us what you do for the MAAC as part of your position?
I speak out in a little bit of a different way than everybody here at the table right now. Back in July, I was recently chosen to be the NCAA National Student Athlete Rep for the MAAC Conference. So basically what my goal and how everything's come about is I sit at a table with 31 other conferences, and I speak about all 11 institutions that are in the MAAC. So not only sitting at this table means a lot, but the one at the national office does too as well.
And you'll be chairing our business meeting later this weekend and
Of course, yes.
leading us through a discussion of NCAA issues and best practices that you all do on your campuses. So we really appreciate your time commitment, Emily. So I'll start off with a question for you then. So the voice of the student athlete, that'll be our topic.
Of course.
So do you think student athletes can influence how your athletic departments are operated and how you look at different policy decisions that are before the NCAA?
Yeah, I think that being a part of the NCAA now, I also was asked to be the student athlete rep on another NCAA committee. So understanding that student athlete well-being is always sought out to be the most important priority of all, above everything else. So having student athletes have a voice on committees, maybe not having just a vote, but having a voice and giving feedback and hearing what's the inside part of everything. So it's important because you're not only here to compete, but you're here to be a role model and everything like that. So I think that all committees should understand that student athletes, we care about everything else that goes behind the scenes.
So Nora, when you're at Marist and you're not rowing, talk to us a little bit about how you try to influence your administration and to hear the voice of the student athlete.
Well, at Marist, we are very proud of the relationship that we have with the administration, with not only athletics, with academics, but with other partnerships that we have. So the dining committee, alumni networks. So they're really useful people to have. I wouldn't say in our back pocket, but to have just supporting us as student athletes. We find that it's a lot easier to get things done with more people helping us out.
Well, that's good. And how about you, Cameron? How do you try to hear that your voice is heard within the administration?
Well, generally, we kind of use the SAAC as a springboard, so people will come to me on my team personally with issues they kind of have with either something in particular or some sort of policy, and then I'll usually parrot that at the SAAC meeting, and then our administrator who's at the SAAC meeting will kind of parrot it up. So that's kind of how we influence at Fairfield.
And you feel like they were paying attention to you when you do that?
Yeah, definitely. They usually will either resolve the issue or explain why we can't have that change that we want. So they're very receptive, and they do try to look out and seek the benefit of the student athlete.
So who's got an example of something you brought to the table and soared through to fruition within the administration? Anybody? Bethany?
Well, we have a couple of different dining places on campus, and in our athletic center we have some unused space, or some space to put something else. And as athletes, we brought up the idea in SAC of doing a smoothie bar kind of thing, like a snack type dining area, because the CAC is obviously where a lot of athletes spend a lot of their time, and there isn't necessarily any opportunity to get something to eat, if you're going from a class or to practice, or from lift or to practice. So we brought that up, and it's currently, it was received pretty positively, and it's currently being discussed with our student government, and they just did a larger student body survey, including not only student athletes, but other kids in the Canisius community who would possibly be interested in something of that nature.
Good. So Kevin, at Manhattan, do you think if you had a discussion about serving on MAAC committees, because we do have our own structure of committees, not unlike the NCAA, Do you think that they would be supportive of that? And what do you think the issues are?
Well, for Manhattan, the thing with our school is like we're a very small campus, probably one of the smallest campuses in MAAC conference. So majority of our campus are athletes, basically because of like there's a small amount of students. So I feel that out of the SAC representatives, like I feel the school would have a positive reaction to the SAC representatives that they chose to represent the school, maybe possibly moving on to a MAAC committee and speaking out through there too.
We have committees. We have a general athletic administrators committee where most of the sports-related decisions are made. And then we have different policy committees that are somewhat topical in nature of sportsmanship or awards. So I could see, for instance, our athletes getting involved in an awards committee, and we often give out T-shirts or other gifts within a budget framework. What do you think? What do you think is a useful gift? Because we often sit around try to put ourselves in your positions, and we're obviously a few years removed from being student athletes. So we think maybe we could use some input from the athletes. How about you, Jeff? What do you think?
What's a good gift for us?
No, what's a good committee for you to get involved in? What would you like to see changed, and how would you effectuate change in the MAAC?
What would I like to see change in the MAAC? I think the MAAC's going swell. I don't know.
Well, you're not even, wrestling's not even a MAAC sport, but we
Right.
have hosted the NCAA Wrestling Championship a couple of times.
Yes.
So I suspect if you were involved in our administration, you'd like to see us continue that.
Yeah, I would. I think that putting our name out there on as much as we can, because our athletes are great and we deserve as much limelight as we can get.
Good. What about the rest of you? Anybody have a strong feeling about getting involved in MAAC committees on top of what you already do on campus? Jordan?
I'll take that one. I think one of the big things that Iona is starting to implement that I think would be helpful in a MAAC committee is evaluating our administration. They do a swell job already, but if there's room to improve, why not? So one thing that we changed was instead of doing exit surveys with just our seniors, we started doing exit surveys per year for the entire team. Our ID would come in and we'd have an hour conversation of what could be improved between administration, coaches, facilities, fundraising. And I think that has shown not only a genuine care from our administration to show that they want to be better, but it also gives student athletes the voice that they deserve.
Do you think you sometimes get over-surveyed? It's interesting. I'm on an NCAA committee, actually, that deals with institutional performance. And we're having a big debate about how much survey-itis can you ask athletes and schools to perform. Just wears you down trying to answer these things. But it's also very valuable, both for the NCAA and for the MAAC, to get feedback. Everybody feel generally you don't mind doing it if you think you're having some input into the process?
As long as we're getting something out of it, I feel like anyone would be willing to voice their opinion and maybe make some changes.
I don't think it hurts to know more.
I agree. Megan, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I think sometimes the surveys can be quite lengthy, and that's when you lose interest of any student. So I think the more concise surveys are the way to go, and of course a few comment box about like particulars and things that people want to see. But we do take our surveys pretty seriously, and we have seen some great things come out of them, especially with field hockey just moving into the MAAC within the past 2 years. We've already seen changes within the 2-year stint that we've been a part of the MAAC conference.
Yeah, it's been a good move adding field hockey. We were happy to do it. One of the sports we're looking at now is bowling. We've been asked by Monmouth, actually, to see if we can get a league together. So we often try to do that when asked by the schools. It's not necessarily because we need more sports to run, but because we are a service organization and we need to meet the needs of the member schools. So that's one of the ones that's up next.